I read in a book about Allah was about to destroy a town. And one of the angels said to Allah, one of your righteous servants is in that town. Allah said, destroy the town. Because if he was so righteous, he would have been working to reform the town. In other words, no matter who and what you are, if you will not work the power of your being to change the condition, then you are equally as guilty as the conspirators of evil. Are you listening? What makes you righteous? You see, I don't smoke, I don't drink. I won't fornicate and I won't commit adultery. I don't smoke dope. And I say all my prayers every day. And I give whatever I can in charity. And what else do you do? Well, what do you mean, what else? Is there something else? That's nothing. That's vanity. So you don't smoke, so what? So you don't drink. You don't use drugs. So what are you doing to better the condition of others? What are you doing to reform where you live? And if you do nothing to reform society with the knowledge you have received, then you are guilty of concealing knowledge. And that is a cardinal sin. This is why God is going to uproot Mecca. Because if you are righteous, it is not seen in ceremonial pilgrimage. Your righteousness is seen in changing the condition of the people and making the people responsible for their lives, not making slaves out of them.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Shh. Listen. Listen. How do you know Allah? Every prophet brought us a different name for the God. Is that right?
Yes,
Wait a minute. Listen to me good now.
all right.
Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Every prophet brought a different name. Yahweh, Jehovah, the omnipotent, the omniscient. Is that right?
Yes,
When it came to Jesus, called him Abba, Father. Prophet Muhammad referred to him as Allah. The name had been known, but the people who knew the name didn't have the substance behind that name. They knew the name Allah in Arabia, but they didn't know the characteristics of the God. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the revelation of the Quran, brought us closer to a real view of the God. Hear me now, please. We watch the evolution of religious development from Abraham to Muhammad. I said the evolution of religious development, because 5,000 years ago when Abraham taught, there were things that those people needed that you don't need right now. Some things you do need. Abraham's message was simple, clear for that day, for that time, but there's an eternal principle that is needed in 1984. Prayer was different then. Abraham prayed. He lifted up his hands. He bowed down. Is that right? Yes. But prayer had not the form that it had when Prophet Muhammad taught prayer. Is that right? Yes. Well, what do you know about that? What do you see in that? God allowed prayer to evolve. Charity evolved. Sacrifice evolved from the sacrifice of animals. Right? Yes. Some savage tribes would sacrifice human life to the fire gods. Is that right? Yes. But Abraham makes a sacrifice of his son. And then in the New Testament, Jesus is a sacrifice. Is that right? Yes. So sacrifice evolves from Genesis through to Revelation, where you see the gradual growth of religion from what we would call a nationalistic kind of religion and a nationalistic kind of God to a universal concept of God. Is that right? Yes, sir. You hear in the Old Testament the God of Israel. That's a particular God. The God of that people, that state. When you reach the New Testament, you don't hear about the God of Israel anymore. Is that right? Yes, you hear about Abba, Father. When you reach Muhammad, peace be upon him, he doesn't talk about the God of Israel, nor Abba or Father. He calls him Rabbil Alameen, the Lord, the nourisher, the sustainer, the evolver of all of the worlds. Religion is an ever-evolving, progressive thing. Hear me well. Religion is an ever-evolving, progressive thing. Whenever religion stops its motion, it begins to enslave the people. You are not under a religion right now that frees. You are under religion that enslaves. In fact, most of you religious people are slaves. You didn't hear me?
Yes, sir.
You're slaves.
Wait a minute. I'm not a slave. I'm free.
No, not quite. You're a slave to a concept of religion and a concept of God that you have outgrown. And anytime you force a people to hold on to a concept that they have already outgrown, you are making them a slave. And I must say this, in the Islamic world, the reason that there's so much unrest among the Muslims is because they have outgrown the concepts that have been previously understood and taught in religion, and they hunger for an evolution to a higher stage. And because the mullahs and the religious leaders, the sheikhs, do not have that understanding, they will kill the people and call them heretics or hypocrites or disbelievers simply because they hunger for a greater growth in religion. Listen, you hunger for something better. That can't hold you. I visited my old church a few months ago when I came back from Libya. I was a guest at my old church. They wanted me to preach there. And they had communion that day, and they asked me, would you come and sip some wine and eat some bread? I said, no, thank you. You go right ahead. I wanted to help them. I saw them coming to the altar looking very sanctimonious, you know. These people that had raised hell all Saturday night had just barely gotten stuff out their eyes Sunday morning. They were looking holy. And I watch Muslims go to Jummah prayer on Friday, but it's the same ritual. We are programmed to do this, so we go Jummah. We dress up, we go to Jummah. We make our prayer, but the prayer has no more meaning. What does this mean? I don't know. I just see everybody else do this. What does this mean? Hey, hey. Man, what does that mean? What does this mean? What does prostration mean? Why do you prostrate? Well, it's the way we found our fathers. That's not good enough. What is the meaning of it? Why do you pray 5 times a day? Why sometimes 7? Why at the time? Why is there a 7-hour interval between your morning prayer and your noon prayer? But from 12 to your noon prayer to your evening prayer, the prayers speed up. Why? Why the times fixed? What does it mean? I don't know. Well, then what are you doing it for? I really don't know. But I do it. So what happens is the Muslim world takes on the form of religion, but it's like a golden calf. It has no spirit in it. You listening to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why do you go to Mecca? It's what we're supposed to do. Fine. Why do you camp in the plain of Arafat? Why do you throw stones at Shaitan? What does it mean? I don't know. What does the Kaaba mean? Does it have a meaning? Why do you walk around it? Why don't you go straight to it? Why must you walk in order and make a circle around it? 7 times. What does it mean? I don't know. Why is the stone in the particular corner that it's in? I don't know. Why don't you know? Well, I wasn't taught. Well, then somebody needs to teach them.
That's right.
Huh? Otherwise, Muslims are going to grow up like the Christians growing up today with no real spirit for religion. You just in it. You're a Christian, but you just in it. Tell the truth. You don't know nothing about it. What you mean? I mean just what I said. You don't know nothing about it. Well, I know this. What is it that you know? Jesus was born of a virgin. How so? What virgin? Which one? Well, her name was Mary. Who told you that? Why wasn't it Martha? How was she a virgin? How could she have a baby and be a virgin? Well, God can do anything He want to do. Well, why did He break His own law and do it that way? Talk to us. You don't know. Your children want answers. The babies want to know how the virgin get a baby. You say, well, you got to believe, honey, but the baby say, I want to know. Don't come to me with belief. I want to know, mama, how did the virgin have a baby? What answer are you going to give her? Well, that's why I'm going to the well. I want some water, mama. Religion really is trapping the minds of the people. It is not freeing your mind so you can cope with the modern world. Religion is not an enslaving device. Religion is a tool of service. If you can't use it to find your way in the world, then you don't need it. What do you need religion for? To make a preacher fatter, richer, and yourself poorer and dumber? Go ahead, brother. Come on. What do you need religion for in the Middle East? I'm talking to you. Your people sitting there with a Quran, which is the light, and the people's heads are wrapped in a napkin of darkness. How in the hell can you tell me you got the light and the world is flying and you walking around or riding on a camel wondering how you going to modernize your world and you got the book in your hand? Religion is an enslaving thing if it doesn't follow the evolutionary law and principle of growth and development.